Hello, this is a re-recording of what we did in class on the in-class assignment. There is one question that I asked that is about understanding what you did on that in-class assignment, not the procedure of what you did. So it's going to take you 2 seconds to answer that question if you understand it. And if you don't understand it, you won't be able to answer it. So please contact me before in a timely way today because I'm also running around with my family if you don't understand it. So the objective of what we were trying to do, which was number 2, was to find the slope of this blue line right here. The red curve is the original graph, and the blue line is the tangent line. We'd like to find the slope of this tangent line. Why is this complicated? Why isn't there a formula for this? Well, it's complicated because if I change the point I have of interest, so if I change this point to somewhere else, like over here, then the entire slope changes and I have to recalculate and do everything again. And that's what makes this complicated. A lot of you did not answer that question on the in-class assignment, which is very concerning because that's important to understand that the slope changes based on where you are on this curve. So that's what makes it complicated. The third question was, what is x1 and y1, which many of you left blank. Also, x1 and y1 was x1 is minus 1. Y1 is found by plugging x1 into the formula x minus 3x squared, where we get minus 1 minus 3, which we get a minus 4. So the coordinates of this point are minus 1, minus 4. That's your x1, y1. That's permanent. That stays x1, y1. Next, the question that you had, that was the take-home point here, what you should have found as you drew these points out is the closer and closer you got to minus 1, what we were doing is we were approximating that slope at minus 1. So back on this graph, instead of we don't have 2 points, we only have 1 point. But if we took a point next to it, like minus 0.1, comma, minus 0.1 minus 3, oops, didn't like that, minus 3 times minus 0.1 squared. Somehow I'm having trouble using Mathway. I think you guys are probably more familiar with it. Let's see if entering an ordered pair is hard in here. There's your second point. So I just put a second point close to the first point, which was minus 1 minus 4. And now I have, let me put in that second point so you can see it. Now I have 2 points. And if I connect those 2 points together, I will get a line. In fact, that line turns out to be 7x, or 4x, sorry. And you see that it's supposed to actually go through these 2 points. It might be something other than 4x, but you see that this yellow line is almost like the blue line. I want the slope of the blue line. It's good enough for me to calculate the slope between these 2 points, and it gives me a good approximate. So I tried to hug in close to minus 1, and that is why I that is why I did what I did. And I think one of the first points I chose was x equals 0. So we can change this to x equals 0. Now that goes through those 2 points. So 0 is not that far away from -1. So 0 is a good choice to get an approximate slope. So the way we're going about finding the slope of the blue line is by approximating it, by choosing a nearby point, connecting the 2 dots. This y2 value that I got by plugging 0 into this equation. So the coordinates of these 2 points lie on the curve, which is where the x2 and y2 come from. So now I have an x1, y1 and an x2, y2. The second point I chose is minus 0.1, which is a little bit closer. And I think line number 6 was x2 was minus 0.9. So minus 0.9 is awfully close to -1. And every time I get closer and closer to -1, I'm going to get a better and better approximation. So that's the take-home point, that we're approximating the slope of the tangent line and that we're getting closer and closer to it by approximating it and getting closer x2 values. Now, if I chose an x2 value of 10, that would be bad. X2 equals 10 is way too far away. It's not even close to -1. I want to zero in right around -1 and choose my X2 values so that they're very, very close to -1. And that's the take-home point. That was what you should have seen in the table, that the closer and closer I got my X2 to -1, the better and better an approximation I got to the exact slope, which was number 6 on that in-class assignment, was to use algebra to find the slope. And some of you left that out and didn't do that. That's the f of a business that you did, and you should have got exactly 7 as your slope. That's where this blue line, this equation comes from, is that I knew the exact answer. So I hope this is clear. If this is not clear of why we chose the points we did in the table, what we were doing, what the purpose of making that table is, what you were supposed to see, and what we're trying to do, the bigger picture. That's very important to understand. And I weighted this problem really high because if you understand what you're doing, the rest of it will come clear. Some of you are struggling with the procedures. That's going to come. You can go to the tutor to understand the procedure, or myself. I feel we can clear that up. But avoiding the big picture of what we're doing is only going to make things harder, because I can change the problem, I can ask a question, Dr. Goldnabi could ask a question, and you won't be able to answer it. So the important thing is to understand what we're doing first and then apply the procedure. Let me know then again if you have any issues, and we will resolve them by going over this again together so I can kind of understand what your understanding is.